What's going on, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about the Denver Bronco media, the Denver Bronco platforms that are plaguing YouTube, plaguing Instagram, plaguing Twitter, every social media site that you can think of. And the one I'm really going to do a deep dive on today is Broncos Avenue. They're fairly new platform. They're straight out of Dove Valley. They're on the payroll. John Elway, the front office, is signing off their checks. They're here to read a script, okay? Because when you ask them to pull up film to back up what they're saying, they have absolutely nothing. They look at PFF stats as if this is Madden 23. Okay. If you guys really had a roster full of top 5 talent, this talented roster, a great roster, you guys would have a record of 500 or better. It wouldn't be, how many years now? 7 years since you've had a record of 500 or better. It's almost been a decade since this team has been 500 or better. And being 500 is mediocre. And this team hasn't even achieved that. For 7 years now, this team has been a bottom-feeding team in the NFL. They've been the laughingstock of the NFL. And you have channels like Broncos Avenue, the Mile High Huddle, DNVR, telling you that this team is going to be something special next year, every single year. Last year, they told us how innovative Nathaniel Hackett's offense was in the offseason and how we were going to dethrone the Chiefs. And I was the only one saying, we're going to be the same team we are every year next year, because you once again ignored the offensive line, which has been the biggest problem on this team. And it's the source of all the offensive problems on the Denver Broncos. It isn't coaching. It isn't the quarterback. It's your offensive line. Your offensive line, man to man, does not stack up with the rest of the NFL. You have a terrible offensive line. You have Garrett Bowles, who is the most overrated left tackle in the NFL, who is a penalty machine. You see him week after week clotheslining people, headlocking people, wrestling with people, and the refs not throwing the flag. You have Lloyd Cushenberry, who's the worst center in the NFL. You have no right tackle, and you just once again overpaid somebody who does not fit your system to be your right tackle. You brought in Ben Powers, which was a good move, but you've completely ignored the offensive line yet again. And all that tells me is John Elway is still here. John Elway still calls the shots. And it isn't me saying this. It's Sean Payton who said it. Sean Payton said in his press conference that John Elway is still here. He's still going to have an office, and he's going to be around a lot. And that tells you what you need to know. And what they did in this draft this year tells you who's calling the shot. What did they draft this year? I'll tell you what they drafted. They reached for a receiver who wasn't the best receiver in the draft at that moment in time and wasn't even the best receiver on his team. They bring in an inside linebacker who's a 4-3 off-ball linebacker. Denver runs a 3-4 defense, and they're going to put him as an edge rusher in a 3-4 defense, just like they did to Baron Browning, who's a better inside linebacker than an edge rusher. Then, you guessed it, corner. Then, you guessed it, safety. Then they traded for a tight end, which was probably that was probably the best move of the draft, is trading for the tight end from the Saints. And then they brought in a safety. Then they brought in the worst center in the draft and someone who may never play a snap in the NFL. So once again, Denver does the typical John Elway draft. What was it this year? It was receiver, edges, corners, receivers, edges, corners, 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 receivers, edges, corners. That's what the Broncos draft. And they, again, drafting positions that we do not need to fill. This offensive line has been a problem. It's been a source of your offensive problems, of your inept offense, of your offense that lacks the ability to score points because your offensive line just simply does not stand up to the defensive lines in the NFL. The defensive lines in the NFL push your offensive line around. And it also doesn't help that you have receivers who don't separate, who don't get open, who can't run block, who can't catch a cold. It also doesn't help when you have a quarterback who can't read the field, who's a one-read quarterback, and you're expecting him to read the whole field and get rid of the ball quickly. You need to be running the ball every single play, 62% of the time. You need to run a Pete Carroll offense with Russell Wilson as your quarterback. You need to put the game in the hands of the running backs, and then you give Russell Wilson a play-action, one-read play every once in a blue moon, just like Pete Carroll did. You had Russell Wilson convincing everyone that he was the glue holding it all together in Seattle, and they have Geno Smith taking them to the playoffs. I mean, if the Denver Broncos did as good of a job building their own team as they have the Seattle Seahawks, Denver would be in the playoffs right now, but they don't. So we're going to ignore offensive line again, as we always do. We're going to ignore the interior defensive line again, as we always do. We're going to say that our inside linebackers, Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton, are good enough, and they're not. They're two inside linebackers begging to be thrown on. We're going to say that our offensive line is good enough, even though Russell Wilson got injured behind it, even though Teddy Bridgewater was taken off the field in an ambulance, even though Drew Lock got killed behind it, even though Joe Flacco got killed behind it, even though Trevor Siemian got killed behind it, even though Paxton Lynch got killed behind it, even though Peyton Manning got killed behind it. But it's good enough. And your offense couldn't put up more than 16 points a game last year because your offensive line, which is the heart of the offense, fucking sucks. That's how I know that this team is not going anywhere next year. And by the way, your run defense next year is not going to be very good. You remember how bad the run defense was with Vance Joseph in 2017 and 2018. Well, we had way better player personnel during those 2 years than we do now. Vance Joseph is a dead man walking. And it's why Ezra ran for the hills. He wanted no part of this organization. He didn't take a head coaching job. He took another defensive coordinator job in another organization that has their shit together, that's doing it right, that spent time building the team before they went after the quarterback. A team that whooped your ass last year, mind you. And you guys are going to tell me that this team had an A+ draft all across the board. You guys are fucking stupid. You guys pound your chest every offseason, and the results in the regular season are the same. You know why I know it's going to be the same season every year? Because we're doing the same bullshit in the offseason that we've been doing for the last 7 years. Hey, Broncos Avenue, if you're worried about stats, since I ask you to show film and you don't do that because you're not an analyst. I'm convinced you don't even watch the games on Sunday. I'm convinced that when the game's over, you put on the highlight tapes and you read PFF stats all day. That mean absolutely nothing. If you like stats so much and you're so good with statistics, when was the last time Denver had a record of 500 or better? Can you name a season where, can you name, out of how many seasons since 2014 has a quarterback not gotten injured behind the offensive line? Can you name it? And you guys are going to convince us that we're just good enough. You guys are fucking joke. Broncos Avenue, you guys send me hate mail on Instagram. You guys wouldn't let me go live with you on Instagram because you don't want your fucking fan base to hear the truth. You guys know I'm right. You guys block me because you know I'm right. You guys send hate mail because you know I'm right. You took a victory lap because the Broncos bribed Sean Payton. Sean Payton came here on a bribe. No other team in the NFL would have had to pay the price that the Denver Broncos had to pay to land Sean Payton. He wanted to go to the Dallas Cowboys. He did not want to go to the Denver Broncos, but the Denver Broncos price that they were going to pay for him was too good to pass up. So he's here for his retirement. His coaching, his legacy is in New Orleans. He is not here for the love of coaching. He's here for that money. So yeah, you guys were right about Sean Payton, but who wouldn't take the amount of money that they offered him to come here? After the Broncos were begging Jim Harbaugh to come here. after D'Amico Ryan said it was an easy choice to take the Houston Texans over the Denver Broncos. You guys were scrambling to find head coaches, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators to come here. You guys got so desperate that you guys brought in one of the most vilified head coaches in Broncos history, Vance Joseph, to be your defensive coordinator because nobody wanted to come here. And you guys still haven't learned. You guys still have that man, John Elway, lurking behind the scenes. And until he's gone, nothing's going to change. You can tell us that he's gone, but Sean Payton spilled the beans. The moves you're making tells me that John Elway's there. At the very least, you guys haven't gotten rid of his people that he brought in. If you got rid of Elway, you still need to clear out the people that he brought in. So when this season comes crashing like a ton of bricks, down on the Denver fan base like it does every single year, what are they going to do then? Who are they going to blame? You can't blame your quarterback because you got Russell Wilson. You can't blame your head coach because you have Sean Payton. Who are you going to blame next? You guys hold everyone except the front office accountable. I'm going to show you guys the difference between Denver bought and paid for script reading platforms and real platforms who tell like it is. So first, I'm going to show you Broncos Avenue.
Tim Patrick, and he's going to be that guy downfield that can be very reliable for you. I think this is just a home run pick by Sean Payton and company.
So according to Broncos Avenue, trading up for Marvin Mims was a home run pick by quote unquote Sean Payton, by quote unquote George Payton. Well, we all know who it really was. It was John Elway. Only John Elway has been obsessed with wide receivers. Only John Elway. John Elway has been so obsessed with wide receivers, yet this man has put together a roster full of inept wide receivers. So he's obsessed with like 3 or 4 position groups, yet they still suck. So Marvin Mims, this guy wasn't the best receiver on the board. This and their whole narrative for drafting the players that they did that don't fit the needs of what needs to be fixed, which is clearly the offensive line, the interior defensive line, the inside linebackers, the outside linebacker, your whole linebacker unit. You guys drafted another receiver. You guys used your premium pick in this draft to draft a receiver. I thought Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Jerry Jeudy were top-tier receivers. Why are we drafting more receivers? When you have an offensive line that's gotten just about every quarterback that's played behind it killed. You have an inept offensive line that has led your team to be completely mediocre and inept on offense since 2015. And you guys have ignored the offensive line every single fucking year. If it was best player available, it definitely wasn't Marvin Mims because he was not the best wide receiver on the board. And he wasn't even the best wide receiver on his team. Denver reached. Marvin Mims would have been available without trading up for him. He would have been available later on in the draft. He was not the best wide receiver in that draft class. He was not the best wide receiver on the board. He wasn't even the best wide receiver on his team. Denver reached up to bring in a punt returner. Again, ignoring the offensive line. A home run pick would have been drafting a right tackle that fits your system. A home run pick would have been drafting a center that fits your system. A home run pick would have been drafting a left guard who fits your system. That would have been a home run pick. A home run pick would have been drafting a mean interior defensive lineman who fits your system, who is going to tear apart and wreck the game in the middle of the field. That would have been a home run pick. A home run pick would have been drafting an inside linebacker who's useful in pass coverage, who fits your system. That would have been a home run pick. A receiver? Are you fucking kidding me? And they said that this was a home run pick. This is hilarious. This is hilarious. Before you can focus on skill positions, you need to be set in the trenches, and you guys are not set in the trenches. This team gets bullied every fucking week in the trenches, and that's why your offense could only put up 16 points a game, because your offensive line fucking sucks. And it doesn't help that you have a quarterback who can't read the field and holds on to the ball and stares down one wide receiver, and an offense that's ran by the front office. John Elway, the offensive coordinator, who refuses to run the ball, which is the only thing that this team was able to do effectively last year, was run the ball with Latavius Murray. You guys want to do bombs away with Russell Wilson, and that's never been his game. I know Russell Wilson wanted to lie to himself and convince himself and the fans that he was the glue that held it together in Seattle. Well, we definitely see that that's not the case at all, because Pete Carroll turned Geno Smith into a quality starter in the NFL. And went to the playoffs their first year without Russell Wilson. Ever since Peyton Manning left this organization, this team has not had a record of 500 or better, except in 2016. You can thank Wade Phillips for that one. You can thank Gary Kubiak for that one. You still had a damn good coaching staff in Denver. You still had damn good player personnel in Denver that year. So you can thank Wade Phillips. You could thank Adam Peters. You could thank Pat Bowlen for the 9-7 season in 2016. You could thank them for the Super Bowl 50 victory. But a home run pick, give me a break. Not even close. Denver did not need a receiver.
Drew Sanders just reminds him of kind of like a really young Luke Kuechly, someone that can rush the passer, but also be very effective in the middle of the field. It's a very stark and big comparison, but he's one of those guys. And you also said that he feels like he's almost better rushing the passer. And I see people calling this dude a white Micah Parsons, which is really, really funny. Someone that was getting a lot of first round buzz, in the.
And then this is what I mean. PR hype. I mean, I don't even have to say much. Comparing Drew Sanders to Luke Kuechly and Micah Parsons, this is what I mean. So when people say I hate the Denver Broncos, I don't hate the Denver Broncos. This team is a bad football team that needs to get better, and there are a lot of areas they need to get better in. And I want them to stop selecting players like Drew Sanders, who could be a really good 4-3 off-ball linebacker in the NFL, but he's going to have his career cut short. And Denver's going to kill another career from a promising inside linebacker by moving him outside of his position, outside of his system, and forcing him to be something he's not, an edge rusher. You already have Broncos Avenue reading the script from John Elway, prepping you guys for when this team moves him out to the edge to rush the passer. He's already setting the stage for it for the front office, because that's exactly what they're going to do. So that's the Broncos right there. Square peg in a round hole. Drafting players that are good, that could be good players in the right system and the right scheme, and trying to make them be something they're not. That is the Denver Bronco way. Shoving a square peg in a round hole and comparing him to fucking Luke Kuechly. Get the fuck out of here.
Right before the show, do the Broncos have the best linebacker core in the NFL? The correct answer is yes. In my opinion, after the Niners lost some linebackers. So I'm just really, really excited about what is, in here for the future. I'm not sure if Joe.
Do the Denver Broncos have the best linebacker room in the NFL? Are you fucking kidding me, Broncos Avenue? Their linebacker room is one of their biggest weaknesses. It's the second biggest weakness on the team. So you're going to tell me who's our linebackers? We got Josie Jewell, who runs slow as shit. He's slower than slow. Alex Singleton, who's Josie Jewell 2.0, slower than slow. Randy Gregory, who's best known for punching players in the face rather than his play on the field. Baron Browning, who's playing outside of his position, who's an inside linebacker, rushing on the edge, and Nick Burrito. That's the best linebacker room in the NFL. Show me the film, please. Show me the film. Show me the film that this is the best linebacker room in the NFL. Please do. I want to see this linebacker room I want film to back up a claim like that, because you guys just make these bold fucking claims, these insane delusional claims, and you have nothing to back them up. You guys are fucking... I don't hate the Denver Broncos. I hate Denver media. I hate Denver platforms who convince the fan base and lie to the fan base that this team is a talented roster, one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. Not even close. Not even close. You guys are not the... Oh my gosh. The best linebacker room in the NFL. Get the fuck... Bro, teams out here have better linebacker. One linebacker on the 49ers. One linebacker is better than the Broncos linebacker room combined. Like, you guys are a fucking... Like, you can't be serious. Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton, Nick Burrito, Baron Browning, and Randy Gregory are the best linebackers in the NFL. You gotta be fucking shitting me.
Third round, falling like you guys mentioned, and he's just one of those guys that I'm just very excited to see. And Sean Payton said in his press conference that he is an inside linebacker, but we said the same thing about Micah Parsons, and he's just a beast rushing the passer. Drew Sanders, from everything I'm seeing, he's a better pass rusher than an inside linebacker, which is very, very interesting.
And all this is right here is them setting the stage to justify. They're basically letting fans know that he will be moving to the edge. It's a script from the front office, because that's exactly what the front office plans on doing. They're going to move him to the edge. He was drafted to be an edge rusher in a 3-4 system, despite being a 4-3 off-ball inside linebacker. They're going to move him to rush the passer in a 3-4 defense. They are going to waste yet another career. They're going to destroy yet another player's career by putting him in a system that he doesn't fit, making him play outside of a position that he normally plays. They're going to waste another career. They're going to waste another talented player because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And all this is saying that he's a better pass rusher than an inside linebacker. All they're doing is setting the stage for when they do move him to the edge.
Weapon for Vance Joseph. We know that he likes to, move his linebackers around in his defense. And we're seeing yesterday, I saw on Twitter from a few people saying that the Broncos are kind of just staying with Ejiro Evero's defensive scheme this year, and just kind of changing the defensive coordinator. That's all it is. It's just the person, not the system. So I'm really happy to see that. We have a lot of continuity from the players are returning. So to add Drew Sanders to the mix, definitely a great pick by the Broncos. I know some people are mad that they didn't potentially go with a different position there, but this draft, I said going into it, I think Jordan agreed with me. This draft, this roster, I feel like was like ready to compete week one, even without the draft picks. I know there's some very, very, very big depth issues. There still is on the offensive line and on a little bit on the defensive line as well. But I was comfortable, going into the draft with our roster, and even.
So now it's the Denver Broncos have depth problems on the offensive line. No. They don't have depth problems. They have an offensive line problem. Their starting offensive line is not good. Depth problem implies that your starters are good and your backups aren't cutting the mustard. There is nobody on this offensive line that cuts the mustard at all. You name a quality starter, please. Can you name one? Garrett Holds? No. This offensive line needs to be dismantled and completely rebuilt through the draft, through free agency, through everything. I already said anything but an offensive line-centric offseason, and I don't want to hear it, and I know John Elway is still there. And that's exactly what we did. We completely ignored the offensive line. Oh, we signed Mike McGlinchey and overpaid him, a player who doesn't fit our system. We signed Ben Powers, and then we drafted the worst center in the draft. Awesome. Just to say we did something. We didn't do anything. You need to completely rebuild the offensive line. What did the Chiefs and the Eagles, the two teams that were in the Super Bowl, have in common with each other? Great offensive line play. You talk about the best offensive line in the NFL, either one or two is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, and they had great defensive lines. That is what separated the team like the Chiefs from the Cincinnati Bengals. It's what separated the Rams from the Cincinnati Bengals. It's what separated the Chiefs and the Eagles from each other. They were both neck and neck. That was a evenly matched Super Bowl. And what do they have in common with each other? Offensive and defensive line. Elite offensive and defensive line. Something that the Denver Broncos know nothing about. Something that the Denver Broncos will know nothing about for the foreseeable future. Those two teams dominate other teams in the trenches, and that is exactly why they were in the Super Bowl. And that is exactly why we had one of the best Super Bowls we've ever seen. And you guys are going to tell me offense and defensive line are just good enough in Denver. That's why your team only puts up 16 points a game on offense. And it's likely going to be the same. That's why when teams play you, they don't take you seriously. Other teams come and play you, and they experiment against you because they know that you're not going to score more than 16 points. When the Ravens were experimenting against you with the backup quarterback and the Chiefs were experimenting against you, did you guys not get the clue? Did you see Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball right at the inside linebacker against the Bengals in the AFC Championship? Did you see him throwing the ball right at Justin Simmons or at their free safety in the Super Bowl? No. Two completely different teams. When the Chiefs go up against the Broncos, they see it as a scrimmage. Let's practice things that we can use in the playoffs. Let's see what will and won't work in the playoffs. That's all they do. They don't put together a game plan for the Denver Broncos. Are you fucking kidding me? They don't have to. They don't have to. You saw how fast they went up 27-0. They don't have to. If they did, they would fucking score 100 points on this team. This team is, it's almost as if the NFL is like, all right, Kansas City, take it easy on the Broncos because if you play to your full strengths, you're going to put up 100 points on this team. You saw it last year. They went up 27-0 in a blink of an eye, and then they started fucking around. If they really continued at the pace that they were going, they would have scored 50 or 60 points on them. Teams don't even play to their full effort against you. You guys are so bad. It's because you guys suck in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And you guys say that you have the best linebacker room in the NFL. You got Randy Gregory, Nick Burrito, Jonas Griffith, Josie Jewell, Baron Browning, and Mike Singleton. They fucking suck.
Be Batman here.
Yeah, and you can tell like right off the jump, like this was not like a normal George Payton draft because we would have seen some trade downs. We would have
absolutely not
more picks. Like it was a Sean Payton draft, from the start. So I mean, it is interesting. I would agree it's like a Batman Robin thing, but I mean, we all know Sean Payton's running the show now.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I thought it was weird that we traded up and took a guy.
It's important for me that and John's got an office here, and he's going to be obviously around a lot. But
so no other organization in the NFL has to say, this was my head coach's draft. This was my general manager's draft. Because the fan base knows that it's John Elway still calling the shots. Sean Payton spilled the beans. It's too late. I don't care what you have to say, Broncos Avenue. This was not Sean Payton's draft. This was not George Payton's draft. This was John Elway's draft, which is exactly why it was the same exact draft we do every year. Corners, 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 receivers, 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 edges, 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 ignore the offensive line. Textbook John Elway. And Sean Payton spilled the beans right before the draft.
Since CBS gave him the best center and draft grade, and I'm like, we got him in the 7th round. That's kind of crazy.
Yep.
I saw people saying like he doesn't really fit the scheme, in Denver, the scheme fit for the offense, and I'm like, I don't really think you can adjust. I think he's gonna be the starter. That's just me. I just think he's gonna be better than Lloyd Cushenberry. That's just in my opinion. I think come week 1, he'll be the starter. He'll win the job, and people be like, wow, the 7th round pick won a job. How really good is he? Yada yada. And I think we'll be just fine. But to be honest, I love the pick. It's probably, I would say in this draft, had to be like my 3rd favorite pick because of just the value we got in the 7th round for him.
Even they know that it's another player that doesn't fit the system. Even they know, but you can adjust. Or you can draft someone that fits your scheme. How about that? Why adjust when you can draft a player that fits your fucking system? Even you guys know that he doesn't fit the system. He was not the best center in the draft. He shouldn't have even been drafted.
So I think they still pick it up. But yeah.
I think they're not. They're gonna light a fire under him, and he's gonna go off for like 1,200 yards this next season and show people. But going back to that Sutton and Dalvin Cook swap, I'm not doing it. I just feel like running back, the value, I don't value it as high as some other people.
How many years now have we been waiting for Jerry Jeudy to have a breakout season? How many years? He's entering his fourth year. And we're talking about next year is going to be his breakout season. Next year, how many breakout seasons has Justin Jefferson had? How many breakout seasons has CeeDee Lamb had? How many? And we're still waiting for Jerry Jeudy's first breakout season. You got the worst receiver in the draft. You're so receiver obsessed, and you got the worst receiver in the draft that year.
But I think it's worth it, though. I think you have to run the ball. And I think like Javonte and Dalvin Cook would honestly be, that's the best running back duo in the league. And then you throw in a little bit of P-Ron in that.
Oh my God. Javonte Williams and Dalvin Cook? What? Oh my God. You cracked the code. That's going to be the move that sends us to the Super Bowl. Forget the offensive line again. When we could get Dalvin Cook. That's crazy. That is crazy. We should have just kept Latavius Murray on the team and called it a day.
By the way, I couldn't pass this up, but Andre Carter had 14.5 sacks and 17 tackles for loss in one season. Like, I understand 2022 was disappointing, but how do you go undrafted with those stats? That's just mind-boggling to me. So
before we end,
yeah, man. Let me just answer your question. So NFL scouts, right? People who are in the draft room, people who are in charge of scouting talent in the NFL. So what they do is there's this little thing called film. So what they'll do is they'll turn on their computer, their TV, their maybe they're old school, they use that projector, or they turn on the iPad, whatever device. So what they do is, what film is basically, it's footage of any given player playing their position, and they evaluate how they're performing on the football field using videos, using footage. So they evaluate their skills on the football field, and 31 other teams in the NFL determined that based on what they saw on tape that he was not good enough to be drafted. So it's stats with context, but players are evaluated by NFL scouts with film. So if all you had to do to be a good scout was read PFF.com stats, everyone would be a scout. But stats with context is what matters. So you have to match what you see on paper with what you see on film, and a lot of the times it doesn't match, which is why stats are not a reliable way to scout players and determine whether a player is good, which is why Denver fans find themselves very disappointed in the players that they draft every single year.
I'm from USMC Sniper 123 here, says, even though John Elway was as bad as the GM post Super Bowl 50, I always appreciate him for drafting Von Miller, getting Peyton Manning, and firing John Fox after constantly coming up short.
So John Elway, what did he do for the Denver Broncos? His legacy is from 2016 forward. So you can thank Pat Bowlen, Adam Peters, for building the roster that they did to win Super Bowl 50. You can thank Pat Bowlen for attracting Peyton Manning to Denver. You can thank Pat Bowlen for attracting the free agents that came with Peyton Manning to Denver. And you can thank Adam Peters for drafting players like Malik Jackson, Derek Wolfe, Kayvon Webster, the real draft picks that solidified the team and made it a Super Bowl winning team, made that defense take that next step. Everything that's John Elway's legacy is from when Pat Bowlen and Adam Peters were gone. So basically from 2016 to today, that is the true John Elway legacy. Horrible offensive line. Corners, receivers, corners, edges, receivers, corners. I know you're paid by Dove Valley. I know you're paid by the Denver media to talk good about John Elway, but this is a results-based league, and the results do not make him worthy of me praising him. Do I praise him as a quarterback? Yes. Do I praise him as someone who runs an organization well? Fuck no.
linebacker in the middle of the field, or is he one of those guys who are going to have to rush the passer, just move him to a full-time edge? I know the Broncos kind of played around with Baron Browning before finally realizing that he is meant to be an edge rusher in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope they kind of get this right. I've seen a lot of people call him a white Micah Parsons. So who knows? Maybe they kind of use him in maybe a role like that here in Denver.
Yeah, that's the takeaway. That's the expert analysis from Broncos Avenue, the white Micah Parsons. Okay, so Baron Browning played his best year when he was in the middle of the field with Kenny Young. He's a middle linebacker. He's not an edge rusher. He's not an edge rusher. So I know that there's this narrative that moving Baron Browning to the edge made sense. And if it did, why are we still drafting edge rushers? Not only are we drafting edge rushers, we're drafting a 4-3 off-ball linebacker to play an edge rusher in a 3-4 system. So all of this drafting players and then making them do things that aren't their strengths and putting a square peg in a round hole is the reason why the Denver Broncos fucking suck. How about if you want an edge rusher in a 3-4 system, you draft an edge rusher who fits a 3-4 system. If you want an inside linebacker in a 3-4 system, you draft a linebacker that plays well in a 3-4 system. So you draft players at the correct position that will actually fit your system, and you'll have much better results instead of drafting players to play outside their position, play roles that they're not, known for playing. How about you draft players who are known for playing those roles and can help you day one?
Like this wide receiver room, I feel like it fits so perfectly together with all the each and every single receiver has their own kind of skill set and what they bring to the table. You talk about Jerry Jeudy, one of the easily top 5 route runner in the league. The separation and man coverage, no other receiver does it better. You can look statistically, shows exactly that.
Again, paper is not where the game is played. I don't even know how they come up with the stats. Best separator and man coverage stats. I don't see it on film. Show me the film that he's a top 5 route runner. Show me on film that he's the best receiver in the league against man coverage. Please show me the film on that. Please show film, because if that was the case, he was a top 5 route runner and the best separator in football against man coverage, you would see that show up on Sundays when you watch the game. But it doesn't. You watch Jerry Jeudy and you see a receiver who likes to jog on his routes. You see a receiver who sucks in in run blocking. You see a receiver who half-asses his routes. That's what you see.
Hey, Draymond at the deadline in the middle of the season. 6.5 sacks a season, leads the team. He's like top 10 in every interior defensive lineman category. He's even top 5 in some. I could be wrong. I believe he's second in quarterback hurries by interior defensive lineman or something like that. That's insane, man. That's like Aaron Donald stuff. So,
and last but not least, when this was before free agency, but I had to throw this in. Anybody who takes someone seriously, who's going to compare Draymond Jones to Aaron Donald, nobody should be taking a platform like that seriously. They sent me hate mail on Instagram when they took a victory lap because the Broncos bribed Sean Payton, talking shit. But it doesn't matter because your team still fucking sucks. They're still 5-12. They're still not improving on the weaknesses that got them to 5-12. You're still a PR hype machine, and this team's not going to deliver next season. So you guys could talk all the shit you want, but the results say otherwise. And nobody should be taking a platform who says Draymond Jones is on Aaron Donald's level. It's not even close. Not even fucking close. And it's blasphemy that they would even compare the two, but that is where we're at in the Denver media. So now I'm going to show you how the rest of the NFL views the Denver Broncos draft. And I'm not going to commentate on this because they say it better than I'd say it. There's nothing for me to add because it's true.
A joke. A, you took Marvin Mims ahead of 15 better receivers. Easy. B, Drew Sanders does not fit your defense at all, unless you think he's an edge rusher. And if you do, I wanted to say something right there that I couldn't say. And it's not because it was vulgar. It's because, I'm just going to move on. Riley Moss, that's fine. I'm not going to bang on you too hard for that one because that's about where he should have gone. J.L. Skinner may not play a down all year long, and Alex Forsyth may never play a down in the NFL. Mm-hmm. That's your haul. Oh, by the way, and your pick was the best corner in this draft. Congratulations on Russell Wilson. Let's ride! You better hope Sean Payton is everything he's been sold to be, because he is walking into a gunfight and he's got a stick. And it's not even a big stick. It's like a twig that still has some leaves on it. And he just swings it at you and it goes. And that's all he's got. I've never seen a worse. And look, I know you didn't have a lot of capital. I get it. You still had 3 picks in the top 83. Do you know how many of my players that were in the top 100 you walked away with?
None.
One.
Oh, wow.
Drew Sanders. And guess what? He didn't fit your scheme at all. It was bad. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure that Sean Payton didn't just go full sleeper agent to fire George Payton a year from now. Like, well, we can't do it now, but a year from now, when we get 4 snaps out of our rookie class, maybe then we can fire him.
Right.
That likes this class. I ain't found one yet.
Mm-hmm.
Not nary a one. And the sheer fact that in one offseason, you have tried to trade Cortland Sutton, you've tried to trade Jerry Jeudy, then you pick up the 5th-year option on Jeudy and take another receiver anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many receivers you think you need for this dumpster fire quarterback you have. But now you have 4 that play. You know what 3 of them have in common?
What?
They couldn't block Joe Biden. So good luck running the ball. I really hope you plan on trotting out 13 personnel a lot. It's the most confounding thing I've ever seen. It's that old line of, you are the dumbest smart person I've ever seen in my life. Denver Broncos, welcome to the chat, because that is the dumbest draft I've ever seen from a group of smart people like that.
Wow. All right. So maybe fueling the fire here on the talk that George Payton's going to get fired.
In the chat, Alex S. said Walmart invested in the worst value humanly possible. I'll be 100% honest with you. If Walmart sold draft classes, they wouldn't even put the great value sticker on this one.
Oh.
They'd be like, go grocery. That goes to where things are dead and they're expired.
With days after the draft, kind of letting it sit back in your mind.
So yeah, I have it at a B+ as well. I mean, I'm not like Sports Illustrated who gave it a D. I mean, that's
It's crazy.
I mean, I don't know what was happening over there, but I give it a B+. I think looking at the value that we got.
Yeah, so what's going on over there, Broncos Avenue and predominantly Orange, is they're not on the payroll for John Elway. They're not reading a script like you guys are. They're unbiased. So they're calling it like it is. They're calling it how I see it, how the rest of the NFL sees it, how the rest of the GMs in the NFL see it, how the rest of the head coaches who never wanted to come here, the coordinators who never wanted to come here, the coaches Denver had to beg and bribe to come here, saw it. It's a dysfunctional organization. It's a dysfunctional front office. There are too many cooks in the kitchen. And the ownership, until they clean house, they clear out the front office. They clear out anyone who has an office in Dove Valley. Any decision makers involving football from the top to the bottom need to be fired and replaced with people who know what the fuck they're doing. Bring up up-and-comers from organizations like Philadelphia. Bring up up-and-comers from organizations like the San Francisco 49ers. Bring people in from organizations who know what the fuck they're doing so we can have an organization that knows what the fuck it's doing. I'm so sick of this John Elway bullshit, and I'm so sick of the Denver media like Broncos Avenue, who peddles the Kool-Aid, who spills the Kool-Aid, who spews the Kool-Aid to the fan base, lies to the fan base, hypes up a terrible team, hypes up a terrible front office, and sets their fans up for disappointment every year. You fans need to start seeing through this shit, because every year it's the same thing. Pound the chest in the offseason, and once the season's played, you guys have a losing record below 500. You pick top 5 or top 10 in the draft, yet you trade your picks away every time, and you don't improve what needs to be improved. Until this team cleans house, they fix the offensive line, they fix the defensive line, they fix the linebacking core, basically rebuild the entire team from the ground up. Nothing's going to change. They need to get rid of everybody. They need to just, blow it all up and start over. And until that happens, nothing's going to change. They're going to have the same exact type of season that they've been having for the last 7 years next year. And when they do, they'll act surprised, and then they'll hype up the team again next year. And you fans who can't see this pattern every single season, you guys need to get your heads out of your asses, and you guys need to start calling this team out. You need to start boycotting this team. Stop buying the season tickets. Stop buying their merchandise. Hit them in the pockets where it hurts, because you're the consumer and you guys dictate the product that's on the field. Until the product on the field is better, I don't want to hear anything about jumbotrons. I don't want to hear anything about stadium rebuilds. I don't want to hear anything about anything other than the shitty product on the field and the shitty front office we have in Dove Valley. Until that changes, nothing's going to happen. Don't believe a word of anything Broncos Avenue says, because they're the biggest paid and bought organization peddling the Dove Valley Kool-Aid on the internet, and they have no idea what they're talking about. They're a bunch of, I'm not even going to say nothing. They compared Aaron Donald to Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones doesn't even belong in the same sentence as Aaron Donald. They compared Drew Sanders to Luke Kuechly. They don't even belong in the same sentence together. They're a joke. Okay, the reason why Sports Illustrated graded you a D is because your draft class sucks, and the only people who think otherwise are bought and paid for Denver platforms like Broncos Avenue.